All right. Hello, everyone. Hopefully you can hear my voice and haven't just seen me talking to myself aimlessly on the video for a second. I'm about to unmute everybody so that you may have control over your audio destinies. So bear with me. I'm going to unmute everyone in 3, 2, 1. Booyah. Please unmute or mute back as you see fit. So, all right. So, Lydia, excellent, good, you can hear me. So at 7:30, welcome to the second session of the Cloud Practitioners Essentials study group. So it's been a little, like less than 2 weeks since we last met. So here we are in technically what is our second session, but we're kind of experimenting. So we're kind of seeing how things are going. So I'm Michael Forrester, for those of you who didn't remember from last time, but I wanted to just ask in chat, if you don't mind, please post how you did with studying. Did you get your 30 minutes a day for 5 or 6 days a week? Did you not do any study, which is totally acceptable, it's totally fine, right? Did you do some study? Did you create a schedule? Do you were like, oh, I was too busy, I completely forgot? Like whatever it is, can you like just share in chat, not in questions if you don't mind, but in chat, share how you did with everything. Lydia, excellent. Chris, good, good, good. Good, question practice. Take questions, yep. Good. All right, good. Mr. Wagner, good. Thank you for being forthright. Yep, Keith, good, 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 good. All right, good. It looks like, yeah, there's some investment. That's perfect. Just a reminder that, especially when you're first starting out, the tests, learning this material, there is a big investment / learning curve. So just know, especially if you are older, like myself, now hitting my 47th year of living, right? Just know that you're probably going to be a little bit like, I haven't really done this level of, study and whatever in a while. Although if you're in the IT industry, don't get me wrong, I know that you're studying and learning and taking in stuff all the time, but you might not have done it in this particular way. So just know that if there's some resistance, it's totally normal, totally okay to be like, I'm not really sure that I like, ooh, Michael wants me to like go through this. Is that just straight memorization? You're gonna have all these questions. You know what? Just set all those aside. I know this is gonna sound weird, but just take it on faith that if you just study the practice exams, you've already taken the class, just study the practice exams, just take them, do the questions, and I'm going to show you today about how to analyze some of the questions. Just do it. Just don't question it. Don't question its efficacy or whether it's going to work. Just go in, look at it. Don't worry about whether you're memorizing it or whether you're getting proper hands-on experience. Doesn't matter. This is the fundamental course. So just hop in, just get started. That is the biggest part of any new project, is both the beginning and the end, right? Usually the in between, once we get rolling, isn't that big of a deal, but getting started and finishing, those are the two issues whenever we start projects. So yeah, so just let that be where it's at. Okay, so that being said, I am sharing at least what I think is logistics. So let's see. Nope, that's not the one I want to show. It's this one that I want to show, because I think you've just been looking at my my Cloud 9 AWS environment. Let's talk about the document that hopefully we're looking at instead. So just a reminder that this study group document has things like my contact information, what are we doing, why we're here, has all of our dates. But from this point forward, it's really easy. We're meeting every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern from now until looks like the 15th. But I reserve the right to negotiate with my WebAge Solutions brethren to perhaps extend it if necessary, but it just depends on where everybody's at, right? We'll see, right? But our original commitment was for June the 15th, so just know that that's what we said we were going to do. So we'll go that far at least. We might go further. It just depends. So I'm going to kind of see where you guys are at and if you need extra assistance. This, by the way, also contains the video link from session 1. I am going to send out a new email because I've got that whole thing set up. So I apologize that you didn't get an email over the last 2 weeks, but I figured with Memorial Day and other stuff, you were either going to study or you're not. Just know that at this point forward, I will probably be technically hounding you in whatever way you want to take that, where about once or twice a week I send you an email and says, hey, how's it going? Do you know the answer to this question? And just see if you can be reminded that, hey, keep up with your study, keep it going, right? And just, just kind of like give you a little bit of impetus. Don't worry, I will avoid the drill sergeant style of, emphasis where it's like, why did you clean that gun? So, like nothing like that. It'll be inspirational, right? So I also, by the way, restructured this document so that it made more sense, because when I went back and looked at it, I thought, was I drinking, which I don't drink, and I was like, was something going on when I did this? Because I looked at it, I was like, it doesn't really make any sense. So hopefully this makes more sense to you, and that there were things that you were to do, and there were things that were optional. There was really only one thing that you had to do this last 2 weeks, which was study the practice exam. That was it. Everything else, from reviewing the flashcards to scheduling the exam to getting the ramp up guide, all of that was optional. So I hope it's clear that you were pretty much going to be hammering away at these practice exams, and that's really your only task. Everything else is up in the air until we get to the end, and then we're going to talk about scheduling and how you want to proceed and that kind of thing. All right. Are there any questions about logistics before we roll in? All right. You mean the study guide that I just posted? Jamie just asked me if how does she download the updated study guide? Yes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send it out. this over Michael guide. So what I'm going to do is tomorrow morning I'm going to send out not only this guide in Google Drive format, but I'll send out a PDF copy, because I know not all of you can get to Google Drive, especially from corporate networks. So I'm going to make sure you can get it in a PDF format. So I'll attach that as well so you can have access to it. So I'll send you multiple formats so you can get it depending on what your corporate restrictions are. So yeah, so we'll send it out no later than tomorrow morning. It could be tonight, but you never know. All right. Last thing is that tonight's focus is going to be on how to attack the questions. By the way, just let me know if has anyone ever had anybody coach them on how to attack the questions in AWS? Give me a yes in chat if someone has gone through this with you. Okay. Okay, good. Getting a lot of responses. All right, cool. So, I'm going to show you how to think about these questions, because AWS has kind of a formula, and what's good about that is that I want to teach you how to attack the questions, because I want you to learn what it is that you don't know, right? I want you to kind of get an idea of not only what your logic is, but ways to peel the thing apart, right? And exactly like what notes you should be taking at the end of this, right? So, all right. Other than that, your homework this week, just to give you a preview, is the same as last week and the week before. Just keep taking the guides. Now, one thing I will recommend, by the way, and I probably forgot to say this, and I apologize, is that I want you to master one test at a time. So if you I don't want you to take test 1, 2, 3, and 4. I want you to take test 1 until you can get a 95%. And then I want you to take test 2 until you get a 95%, and then test 3. Because otherwise you're learning 4 tests worth of questions. I don't want that. Get test 1, cycle through that, take it as many times as you need to until you can get a 95 like that, and then go on to test 2, 95 like that, and keep going through the whole thing, and then go back and take them again if you get that far. But I want you to recycle just one test at a time until you can consistently get a 95%. And if you can get a 95% on the test, that means that the knowledge that you got from class is totally cemented in your being. You might have memorized the answers, but I got to tell you, let me just say this, it doesn't matter, because now you know how the system works. If you remember, by the way, the EBS volumes are disk volumes that attach to EC2, and someone asks you a question and says, which of the 4 volume types is the right volume type to use? And you're like, oh, I know this. It's GP2 because I memorized it. That means you have the knowledge. So it's all good, okay? So just a small correction. One test at a time, cycle through that same test until you can get 95%, then take the next test. Cycle through that test until you can get 95%. So taking the test, by the way, if you really think about it, actually usually takes about, an hour and a half. So it's going to take you a couple days to get one test done. So Just, yeah. Keith, I would say this is that if you don't understand why the right answer is the right answer, then you probably need to look at the explanation at least one time. It's also as equally important that you look at why the other questions are wrong, because that will teach you how the AWS system works. So here was the question, by the way, that Keith asked. He said, should we focus on the explanation or just the test? There's a lot of info in each test question. And the short answer is one test at a time, take the questions. And if you don't know why the right answer is the right answer, then you need to look at the explanation. And if you don't know why the other answers are wrong, you might need to learn that as well. And you're kind of probably thinking to yourself, Michael, there's a huge amount of information. I'm like, I know, I know. That's why it's called a learning curve. That's why there's going to be this huge investment. That's why starting something is always the hardest thing, because it's going to require some investment, right? But here's the cool thing. If you do it now, if you ever decide to take any other certification, you have a base that is going to serve you from now until AWS goes out of business, which I predict will be 2042. So yeah, I said it here first, just letting you know, right? So yeah, so just be aware. Yeah, we'll start a betting pool when AWS is going to go out of business, right? And then we'll follow up with each other in 22 years to see if they actually went out of business. AWS at least, right? Not Amazon. Amazon will be forever. All right. So I think I've beat the logistics to death, and you now know what your homework is. So hopefully no surprises there. Does anyone have any questions before we actually move on to some practice? All right. Let's see. I'm going to unmute everybody again because there's GoToWebinar has this interesting habit of just kind of locking everybody down. So good. All right. Make sure everybody's unmuted. Perfect. All right. So let's switch gears here. All right. So I went to practice test 1 and I refreshed it to get the latest version because I think I had taken it like a while ago. And the test is paused and I'm hitting resume. So when you come here, you're going to have 65 questions. That's what it says up in the upper left hand corner. And you're going to have 90 minutes to take the exam. So, sorry, I'm getting some funny commentary. So here we are on question 1. I'm going to blow this up full screen so you can see it better. So just be aware, it's 90 minutes. You got 65 questions. So here's question 1. Now, here's the thing about the questions to think about. 1, the first thing you need to identify is what are the adjectives, what are the qualifiers, what are the requirements, like what's the outcome that the question is looking for. Now in this particular case, you've taken tests before, it's really simple. It wants to know what's true about the Amazon relational database service. So now we know that the relational database service, what does it cover exactly? And don't just say databases, like give me some specific technology. Name something, a technology that you would run, an open source technology that you would run inside of RDS. Anything. I'll give you a hint. Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle. Can anyone name any others? MySQL, Postgres. Someone wrote, "This is sure." I'm not even gonna answer that one. So yeah. So Postgres, MySQL, MariaDB, which by the way is really just a clone of MySQL. I know that MariaDB people would probably beat me for that. And then of course MS SQL and Oracle, which I already mentioned. Now, don't get fooled, by the way. If you hear Aurora, Aurora is just a subflavor of RDS. So this is where you kind of got like to know the service, right? Now, do you need to know everything about RDS? No, this is the fundamental exam. You don't even need to begin to know everything about it. You just need to know a few key things, usually like 3 or 4. Aurora, by the way, comes in 2 flavors, which is MySQL and Postgres. So people have already mentioned that. The difference is that when you run Aurora, it's like a compatible flavor that's cloud enabled. Now, all of that aside, we've got a true question here, and here's the second part. It's asking for what is true, but it's asking for two things that are true. Two. It says select two, right? Two. All right. And one thing I want to mention is that on the upper left-hand side, there's a little star, mark as for review. Please use that and use it on the exam as well. Especially when you are not testing, when you're practicing, you want to mark questions for review that you're taking guesses on. If you're guessing for a question, you need to mark it for review because you need to know whether you got your guess right or wrong. If you don't mark it for review and you just check incorrect questions, you won't know the ones that you guessed on that you got right. But in the test, I don't want you to mark them for review. You know why? Because usually your first guess is your right guess, and if you go back and review them, you'll change your answer and it will typically be wrong, right? So some methodologies, right? All right, so here we are, question 1, 2 right answers. Okay, so which of the following is true regarding running traditional databases, the RDS service in AWS, right? Using their RDS service. 1, it automatically scales the relational database based on incoming workload. I wish that was true, but it doesn't, right? Make it easy to set up, operate, and scale a relational database. So let me just say this, by the way. We only use services that make our lives easier. So if it doesn't make our life easier, we're not going to use it. So we're just going to go ahead and check 2, because if that's not true, then there should be no reason Amazon should ever sell a service. So, right? Can you imagine? Hey, I'd like to pay you money to make it more complicated, but we're not going to do that. All right. Simplifies the management of time-consuming database administration tasks. Does it fully manage the database? I find myself rubbing my beard and asking myself questions. Simplifies the management. It does simplify the management of time-consuming database administration tasks. I don't know if it simplifies database administration because you're asking for a database that you're going to administer on your own. So I'm not 100% sure about number 3. Number 4 is a fully managed relational database service. That makes sense. That could be, right? And then number 5 is provides 99.1234567891011 reliability and durability. No, it definitely doesn't do that. So providing 99.911s, yeah, that's not on point. It's not on mark. So I know that this one's wrong. So I've seen a couple answers. So someone said 2 and 3. Someone said 3 and 4. I'm sorry, 2 and 3 and 2 and 4. Anybody else have any other guesses about what the answers could be? All right, we're gonna take a guess. We'll take 2 and 4, and don't worry, we'll get the right answers before you leave, so you can have an idea of whether our thought process was right. Because remember, I'm not gonna get 100% on it either, right? So, all right. So let's do question number 2. All right, so remember, first process, what are the requirements? What does it want, right? So users from different parts of the globe are complaining about the slow performance of the newly launched photo web sharing website when they're loading in their high resolution images. Which combination of AWS services should you use to serve files with the lowest possible latency? So users from different parts of the globe. So 1, we automatically know that we're having an issue with slow performance and it's global, right? So, and whenever we want to serve files, there's really only one service. There's one service. When someone says, I want to serve photo sharing, I got a photo sharing website, and I want to share files with you, the minute you hear that, there is only one service to think of. There's one service that should embed itself in your brain that you know for certain they're asking about, and that's S3. Exactly. So I see a couple people guess that, right? Right, so that's one of the 2 answers that you need because you just confirmed that. And the minute somebody says anything about websites and file sharing together, that's S3 all the way, no questions asked. There literally is no other answer, right? Now, the minute someone says in a question, I want to share something globally, I want to share a file globally, I want to share static images globally. I want to share videos globally. Drum roll that thing up again, right? There's only one service that they're talking about, and that's CloudFront. So S3 is a web-enabled file repository, and CloudFront is a global file. It does other things, but it's really a global static file distribution network. So CloudFront is the service when you have one point of origin and you want to push copies of files out to your users globally. That's the only option. Glacier, by the way, is a cold backup storage service, right? Elastic File System is like a Windows file share or an NFS file share, really NFS file share. Basically allows you to share one file system with multiple virtual machines. Storage Gateway is this crazy virtual machine that you run on premise that does all this storage stuff. No, it's going to be S3 because it's web-enabled files, and it's going to be CloudFront because we want to share the files globally. The minute you hear the word network, global file share kind of stuff, that's going to be CloudFront, 100%. I think I beat that to death. Let's move on. Wouldn't it be great if I made all that stink and it's like, oh my God, that was totally wrong, Forrester. What's wrong with you? Sarwar, just to answer that, is that it can't be Glacier because you can't pull files directly in and out of Glacier. Files have to be put into Glacier from S3, and they have to be pulled out from Glacier into S3. So, all right. Yeah, absolutely. All right, question number 3. What is it they're asking for? So they're asking about one of the 6 advantages of cloud computing, which I know you all memorized, right? I know you all memorized the 6 advantages of cloud computing. But it gives you clarification, right? Increased speed and blank is one of the 6 advantages of cloud computing, which refers to the reduction of acquisition time for making new compute resources available to your developers from weeks to just minutes. So basically what it's saying is that, are you nimble or fast enough to acquire resources? Because it's not reliability. That has nothing to do with reducing the time it takes for you to ask for something and then get it, right? It's not high availability, because high availability just makes it so that you have redundant asks, right? It's not elasticity, because that's just the ability to scale up and scale down, right? So it is indeed agility. And guess what? They're only asking for one answer, and you can only check one box. So it's agility. Now, should you go in and memorize the 6 advantages of cloud computing? No. I mean, not necessarily, right? You can, but it's not about memorizing the 6 advantages of cloud computing. It's about knowing that the definition they just gave you there means agility, right? That's what you need to know. So good. So some of you got that right, which I love that. Others, I don't know. I don't know who got it wrong, because some of you didn't share anything, right? All right. So which statement below is correct regarding the components of the AWS global infrastructure? Oh, this is core root stuff. So if you took the Cloud Practitioner class, this is one of the first things they talked about, which was, what is Amazon's global infrastructure? Because it's made of really 3 components, but it's 2 components, but 2 of those components are put together, right? So is it an edge location containing regions? What is the largest unit of Amazon's infrastructure? Is it regions, availability zones, or edge locations? So some of you already answered, because you already know regions are the largest unit of Amazon's physical infrastructure, and availability zones make up the region. So you guys already got, I see a bunch of you already have it right? Which is, you're saying an AWS region contains multiple availability zones. An availability zone contains an edge location? Not really. Edge locations don't get me wrong, there are regional edge locations, but they don't sit inside of the region. You can't see them in an availability zone. They sit in the region, they don't sit in the availability zone. So technically 3 is correct for this. I'm getting some great You guys are awesome. I'm so glad that you are awake at 7:30 after a workday. So we're gonna go for 3. All right, number 5. Among the following services, which is the most suitable one to store the results? Let's qualify this. To store the results of an IO intensive SQL database query so that you can improve application performance. By the way, why would you want to have a database and then have an application? And what would you be doing if you had something between the database and between the application and you were storing information from the database for the application to use? Does anyone know what that's called, by the way? When you put a proxy in front of the thing that you want to talk to? Anyone remember? Because some of you, by the way, have already gotten your answer, right? So the thing that you do is you're caching. When you want to proxy the information into another system, so you got the database over here, you got the application over here, and you're putting something in between it because you want to pull it faster, it's called caching, right? You're caching information. Like CloudFront, that network service we were talking about before, it's a cache because it takes a copy of your file and puts it closer to the user. So here you are, right? And you use the service that has the funky name because Amazon loves Elastic, and so then you just put whatever it is on the end, like cache, for example, right? And so here we are, Elasticache. Greengrass isn't correct because, well, I don't even want to talk about Greengrass. That's a fringe service. No one's probably ever even talked to you about that, so you should just know that it's not even in the menu, right? It's an IoT service mainly. DAX is a super expensive in-memory cache that's not used for application caching. That's only used for DynamoDB, which is why it's called the DynamoDB Accelerator. And then CloudFront, we just talked about. CloudFront is a network cache. You don't use it for applications. You use it for web stuff, right? Global web stuff is CloudFront, right? So Elasticache is application stuff. So when you want to cache application results from application to something else, that's when you use Elasticache. So you guys got that right. I don't even know why I'm talking at this point. Yeah. Awesome. All right, so which of the following is the most cost-effective AWS support plan to use if you need access to AWS support API for programmatic case management? That's a mouthful, isn't it? So, wow, some of you guys already knew this. You're posting answers, right? So, first of all, you know it's not basic because you know what kind of access you get with basic? 0. You get like forum support with basic. With developer, guess what? You get email support, and I think you get like 12-hour production support, which is awesome. Because I mean, we can all stand to go down for 12 hours, right? Then we've got business, and then we've got enterprise, right? So yeah, basic is everybody gets basic. Like you're just like everybody else. Enterprise, by the way, is the most expensive. Business is the one step down. So I'm going to go with the guesses that I've been getting, which is people have been guessing business, right? Or maybe you know it's business. We're going to find out. All right. By the way, that one, you just have to know that, right? That's just something where you're gonna have to look over the support thing. John's got a great explanation here. So just to, like when we do it, you'll see it has explanations of support plans. This is just one you need to just straight up memorize, right? You just need to know. And by the way, this is one of the few support questions. They're not gonna ask you about percentage of spend. They might ask you like which one of these gets a technical account manager, but that's it. 2 questions, and that's probably gonna be it around like the support plans. But you should take a look at John's little cheat sheet for this inside the quiz. All right. Question number 7. What are the things that you can implement to improve the security of your identity and access management users? So this is a best practice question. It's 2, right? And so it's like, how can you improve the security of basically user management? Because that's what IAM is, right? It's just user management, right? So best practice definitely says, right? First of all, everyone says multi-factor authentication. I don't care if you're logging into Microsoft, Google, Gmail, like it didn't matter. Like they're like all please turn on multi-factor authentication, one-time passwords, like all of them. So if it's on here, which it is, it's number 2, then you should do that, right? Now, the other thing is remember, IAM governs users. So you need to look on this list for the thing that has something to do with users. So block incoming traffic with security groups, no, that's not an IAM thing. IAM governs users. Security groups are not part of IAM. So you get, when you think about this, this question is scoped around a particular service. So security groups are not part of IAM, so that's off the table. Block incoming traffic via network ACL, that's off the table. That's not an IAM function, right? Configure a strong password policy for users. What? Wait, what? There's an answer about users. Is there another answer about users? Enable AWS mobile push notification. What does enabling push notification for mobile, for phones, have to do with securing your users? So even through process of elimination, you can just go ahead and say, you know what, let's just configure a strong password policy. So it's 2 and 4. I saw all your answers, so thank you for that. This is great. Okay, which of the following shares a collection of offerings to help you achieve specific business outcomes related to the enterprise cloud adoption through paid engagements in several specialty areas of practice? Does that sound like a mouthful? How many people feel like this is a marketing question? Right? Hey, by the way, which company is the most amazing and awesomest AWS first to market, dominating the market cloud provider, which provides quantum computing that no one's really using yet, right? So I'm not even going to AWS. I love them. They're doing great. But like, this is a little bit of a marketing question. So yeah. So concierge support, well, that's probably has to do with support. Nah, I'm not thinking so. Enterprise support, that sounds like more support. So I don't want to do that. Wait, what did I just do? Did I just, oh yeah, I went forward. And then the third one is AWS professional services. That sounds like something around specific business outcomes that might relate to enterprise cloud adoption. It does sound like a paid engagement because I bet you don't get, I bet you don't get professional services for free, right? And then a TAM, which is what an AWS technical account manager comes with, is all support options. So if you know the support options, then you know that none of the support options, this doesn't have anything to do with support. So the only thing really left to do is professional services. And I gotta tell you, I have not seen, I don't even know that the answer to this question is in the material. So this is another one that you kind of get to exclusion, but just to mention this is that you can figure it out if you know that professional support exists, or if you know that support has nothing to do with this question, right? All right. Okay. All right. Question number 9. Remember at the beginning of Cloud Practitioner, they talk about managed services versus unmanaged services, right? That people, they want you to use managed services because you pay a little bit more, but you get a lot more value for it. So which of the following is an advantage? Which one of the following is an advantage of using managed services like RDS, Elasticache, and Cloud Search in AWS? By the way, just for the record, don't ever use Cloud Search in AWS. Ever. Don't use Cloud Search in AWS. If someone even brings it up, just say no. They haven't even released a new update for Cloud Search in so long. I don't even know why it's still in the test, honestly. But moving along. Let's see, better performance than customer managed services such as EC2 instances, simplifies all your OS patching and backup activities to keep your resources current and square, automatically scales the capacity without any customer intervention, frees the customer up from the task of choosing and optimizing the underlying instance type and size of the service. So I've seen some guesses. Most of you have said 3, which is automatically scale the capacity without customer intervention. Funny thing that, right? Do RDS and Elasticache automatically scale? I don't know. But we're going to go with the guessed answer, the most frequently guessed answer, which by far was 3. But you might want to ask yourselves, do RDS and Elasticache automatically scale themselves? It's a thought. All right. Question number 10. which of the following are regarded as regional services in AWS? So remember, some services have to run in an availability zone. Some are regional, right? Some are global. So there's some services that are global across all of AWS, some that are regional, and some that run in specific availability zones. So I see some guesses. I see some good guesses, actually. So which two of these, right? So here's a couple of things that we know that you probably know. So EC2 has to run in subnets inside of availability zones. So we know that this one's not a regional service. You might not be familiar with the batch service. So you might say to yourself, is that regional or is it availability zone specific? So I'm going to leave that one up in the air for you. Route 53, by the way, is a global service because it has to handle the entire world because it's DNS. And guess what? DNS handles the entire world. So that's a global service. So we know it's not that one. Then we've got EFS, which EFS definitely runs because it in availability zones because it attaches to availability zones, but the source is regional. So if you knew that, then you might know that that's really a regional service. And then the security token service is also considered kind of a global / regional service. But a lot of you have made some guesses already, which I don't necessarily don't concur with. So I'm gonna go ahead and check the ones that some of you said. Yeah, there we go. All right. We're gonna see if we got the answer right. Because remember, we want to fail on these as much as we want to succeed because we'd rather go through our logic and fail and then learn from the failure, right? And then, once we get it wrong, we can then correct our thinking and then make it right, right? So I'm not checking. And by the way, someone asked me, are we checking any stars for review? Because we're not going to do enough questions to where we can't review all of the questions because I'm going to stop here in a few minutes. We're going to go back in and review everything. So all right, so which of the following cloud architecture principles below is followed if you distribute your workloads across multiple availability zones as well as using RDS multiple AZ, which means multiple availability zones, right? Is it decouple your components? Is it implement elasticity? Is it think parallel? Or is it designed for failure? Well, because remember, when you learned about Amazon's physical infrastructure, one of the best practices was to run two, like for example, virtual machines or two databases, one in each availability zone, because Amazon said if they were going to fail, they were going to fail along the lines of an availability zone. So if you put two in there, you could be, and this is what most of you guessed, you could be designing for failure, right? Because when you design and architect things, you want to design them as if they're going to fail, not like wondering if they're going to fail. They are going to fail. So go ahead and design for failure, especially in production. Good. All right, we'll do two more and then we will start the review. All right, companies in the process of choosing the most suitable AWS region to migrate their applications, which of the following factors should they consider? Choose two. All right, so they're trying to figure out which region is going to be the most suitable, and there's 4 reasons to choose a region. One of them has to do with pricing, one has to do with legal and security compliances. Another has to do with latency with the users, right? What's the fourth one? So zone security, well, I mean, they're all secured, right? So, but supporting specific compliance requirements, oh yeah, that's a good one. Oh, by the way, I'm sorry, I kind of moved on without saying. The fourth reason is service availability. Not all services are available in all regions, so that's the fourth reason to choose. So support sovereignty compliance requirements. That's a legal choice, so that's part of our 4 criteria. Proximity to your end users for on-site visits to your on-premise data center. No one's going to AWS data centers, so that's not right. Potential volume discounts for the specific AWS region. No, that's not right. That's not right at all, actually. You don't get specific volume discounts by region. You get discounts for a region, but you don't get volume discounts for a region. And then enhance customer experience by reducing latency to your customers, which, by the way, you reduce latency by physically bringing the service closer to your users. So that's how you bring it. That's how you reduce latency, is you bring the service closer, which is what CloudFront does. CloudFront brings a copy of the files closer to the user, right? So in this case, that's totally valid because latency is a big reason to choose a region. So it's dead on. So 2 and 5, and I noticed that some of you guessed that as well. So, by the way, they try to get you a lot with this on-premise data center thing. Whoa, let's just check 3. Things almost blew up. They try to get you a lot for the on-premise data center thing. Don't let them fool you. There's nothing going on with your on-premise data center at the cloud practitioner level. So just let that go. All right, here we go. The last question number 13. It's like the 13th warrior. Which of the following provides you the most granular data about your AWS costs and usage? So that's the first requirement. Granular data about cost and usage, and also load that information into Athena, Redshift, QuickSight, or your tool of choice. By the way, all those tools can hook into S3, right? So, which is it? I need more guesses before I can choose. I only have one. Cost Explorer, Cost and Usage Report, Consolidated Billing, I'm pretty sure it's not budgets because that's just like setting, well, that's a budget. So let's assume that's actually named for what it does. Cost Explorer is interesting because it does allow you to explore costs, but is that super granular? I don't know. I'm not going to answer that. What about consolidated billing? I think consolidated billing just allows you to centralize billing, doesn't it? Or does it provide more insight into it? And then the cost and usage report, well, a cost and usage report sounds pretty detailed about cost and usage, which was actually requirement number 1. And then, I suspect that you could probably export that report out as like a XLS file or CSV, something like that. So let's go with the guesses. All right. So just in the interest of time, we're going to stop at question number 13, lucky number 13. We're going to stop doing the questions. And we're going to switch gears and go over and review them. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the test. Yeah, let's just finish it. I know I got 80% of the test remaining. Oh, are you kidding? Oh, we didn't pass. Oh, wait, what am I saying? So from here, by the way, I do recommend that if it's your first time taking a test, just go in and take one question, fail it, and then you can run through the answers if you want to. Just to kind of like be able to kind of go through and see the questions and all those pieces. But let's review the questions. All right, so we did lucky number 13. Let's see what we got right and what we got wrong. Okay, so here we are, question number 1, right? Which is, what's the following is true about the relational database service? We got to select 2. So here's what you need to know. First of all, the 11.9s, the only thing that has 11.9s is S3, so we know that's out. We already knew the automatic scaling was out, so our logic was solid there. We knew that every tool has to make things easier, otherwise it's garbage, so why would we even use it? And here's where we got, like, it was like, right? Which of these is helpful? So first of all, RDS is not like DynamoDB in that it's not a fully managed relational service, because it's more like platform as a service because you're getting access to a database engine which you can modify and mess with, right? But it does simplify the management of time-consuming database administration tasks such as disk administration, memory and indexes, backups. RDS is built to make it easier, but it's not a fully managed service. It's just not there yet. And actually, it probably never will be just because of the nature of the technology in question. So the answer here is that it's going to be simplify the administration of tasks, and it's going to make things easy to set up. And if you go down here, by the way, you can skip the explanation. Always look at this option. Provides 99.9% durability is incorrect because that refers to S3, and that's correct. Automatically scales the workload because RDS does not automatically scale. Done. Move on. You don't even need to read the rest of the sentence if you don't want to. It is a fully managed incorrect. It's because it's just a managed database service. It is not a fully managed database service, right? So this is not Gmail, right? This is like you running your own mail server. So, by the way, don't forget there are cheat sheets down here, so feel free. By the way, the cheat sheets are overwhelmingly full of information, so just read the first page or so. Don't get locked into the details, because then you're going to get overwhelmed and feel like you're not going to pass the test, and you're going to do fine. Okay, any questions about that before we move on? Does it make sense why that's right and the rest are wrong? Because there's important distinctions here. Is RDS a managed service? Yes. Is it a fully managed service? No. That's important to know. All right. Question number 2, we got correct, and I gave you the keywords. If we're sharing files through the web, especially static files, that's always S3. I'm sorry. I know I'm not supposed to say always. It's almost always S3, which is basically always. Okay. If they want to share static content globally across the network, across the web, like they want to push that globally, not just share something, they want to share it globally across the network, across the internet, that's CloudFront, always. There is no other service for that. That's the only one. So you don't have to worry about, well, is it this database technology and this? No, there's no databases involved. If it's sharing network files globally across the internet and you need to move them closer to your users, it's always CloudFront, hands down. All right, look at that. It's a map which has all the stuff on it. Lots of cheat sheets here, by the way. Lots of stuff ready here to melt your brain. All right, increase the speed, and blank is one of the 6 advantages of cloud computing, which I walked through this in detail, and agility was correct, right? Because, as I explained, elasticity, high availability, and reliability all mean something else to this. By the way, if you want to see the 6 benefits, there they are. You can study them right there. I mentioned before that I knew John had a pretty good explanation here, right? All right. Question 4. Which statement below is collected by the components of global infrastructure? Most of you guys just seem to knock this out of the park. You knew that regions were comprised of availability zones and that edge locations were a separate entity that were sometimes in a region, but they were not in availability zones, right? So an availability zone did not contain edge locations, but there were regional edge locations that weren't that were part of the region, but they're not part of the availability zone. So so it was good. So you guys got that right. Notice that they were splitting hairs with this one. This one could have gotten pretty close to an answer, but it wasn't. It wasn't. By the way, if you want to explore, you want to explore this interactive map, you can just click on here and you can actually see it. It's pretty cool, actually. Someone asked a question, can we view this recording of the class after if we were held up due to work? 100%. My goal is to share this with you through email, which I think most of you should have gotten an email from me at this point in time. And this also will show up on the Drive Share, so on the Google Drive Share. But I'm going to send out a PDF. And I've been putting the videos on YouTube because I know some of you that can't get access to the Drive Share. So I've been putting it in 2 places so you can get access to it. It's under a playlist, by the way, called, and by the way, the playlist is private. So but it's unlisted, so you can access it through your whatever account you need to. But it has all the recordings are going to be in there for what we've been talking about. I love this little sneaky. AWS provides a more extensive global footprint than any other cloud provider. Woo, them's fighting words. I love AWS, but I'm pretty sure Microsoft and Google have larger data centers, frankly. So larger amount of data centers. Okay, this one I kind of gave you as a freebie, right? We knew Elasticache was correct because, first of all, Amazon loves the word elastic, and if you have an application that's talking to a database and you want to stick a proxy in front of it, something that captures information, that's a cache. That's what it is. So it's Elasticache. That's what it is. So Elasticache is for application caching. CloudFront is for internet caching. It's like web caching, right? So you can read more about what like it's offered here. These are great explanations, by the way. And by the way, these diagrams come straight off the AWS website. So he's pulling straight from official material. Here's some more references. Here's a cheat sheet. All right. Look at that. So this one you need to just embed in your memory. Just take a deep breath in, whoo, let it all out, and memorize these words. Out of the 4 levels of support, starting from basic to developer to business to enterprise, out of the 4 levels of support, the lowest level that you can get API programmatic access is the business level, not the developer level, not the basic level, not the, well, you get it at the enterprise level because that's a higher level, but the first, like the lowest level you get it at, that lowest level is business. So just read after me. Yes, business is the lowest level of support in which you can get programmatic API access. That doesn't roll off the tongue, does it? That's a horrible mantra. That's not going to create any mindfulness at all. Anyway, just remember that, right? Business is the lowest level on which you're going to get programmatic API support. That's it. Hands down, no questions, right? Not basic, which you get nothing. Developer, you get like email. Business support is where you get it. So, by the way, look at this nice little chart. By the way, you notice that basic's not listed there? you don't really get anything with basic. So these are the ones you pay for. Developer, I think, is like, again, remember, I'm going to tell you numbers and they're all going to be lies. It's like $50 a month for developer. Business and enterprise, by the way, are a percentage of your spend. So if you spend $100,000 a month with AWS, you will pay like a fraction of that. I want to say it's like 7% to them every month in addition to get enhanced support. If you're enterprise, you have to be at a higher level of spend and da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, it sounds like a ripoff. It's not. I've had enterprise support with AWS twice in my life since I started working with them in the last 10 years, and it was amazing. It's totally worth it, but you have to be able to support it, right? Anyway, moving on. All right, question number 7. So here we are talking about user management with IAM. So repeat this with me, okay? IAM equals user management. User management equals IAM. IAM equals user management. You got to keep those things together, okay? Don't forget. Identity and access management is about user management. Hands down, no questions asked. That's it. So that being said, some of the best practices specifically are exactly the same as it is for anything that you have a user for. You have a user for Active Directory for your corporate account. You have a username and password for your email account. Guess what they all say? They all say the same thing. Make sure you have multi-factor authentication, meaning you have to have a phone or something in order to decode it, and make sure that you have a strong password for your users. The rest of these don't even have anything to do with users. So you already knew the answer. Moving on. Question 8. This is the one I already walked through, so you kind of already got my like crazy mindset on this. None of these, this question doesn't have anything to do with support. So why wouldn't it be professional services? Right? Just take it in. None of this has anything to do with support. Bear with me just 1 second. All right. All right, question number 9. Oh, that's right. We went with the guesses, right? Which of the following is an advantage of using managed services like RDS, Elasticache, and Cloud Search? And what did I say about Cloud Search? Anyone type this in. What did I say about Cloud Search? Wait, is this thing working? Hello? Hello? What did I say about Cloud Search? I did not say that Cloud Search was the devil. What I said is that I said don't use Cloud Search. Use Elasticsearch, but don't use Cloud Search. Cloud Search hasn't even had a release in like, I don't even know. Like last time I checked, it was 2 years ago. So don't use Cloud Search. Now that being aside, that's just me ranting, right? What did I say about these services? They don't automatically scale. They don't. And RDS and Elasticsearch, by the way, are going to require you to pick a size. So number 4 is wrong too, because you have to pick a size. You have to pick a size. You have to pick the size of machine that you want these managed services, these not fully managed, but managed services to run. But here's what's cool. You don't have to do any OS operating system patching or any backup activities. You do not have to do any infrastructure management here other than choosing the size of infrastructure. So the reason we use managed services, and you should just put this in your brain, we use managed services so we can get away from operating systems, because I don't want to manage the operating system. That is the reason we use managed services, is because I don't want to have to run Windows. I don't care whether it's Linux or Windows. I don't want to have to patch it. I don't want to do anything with it. I just want to run a database. I want to run a cache, or in this case, I might want to run Solr, which is a search tool, which is why it's called Cloud Search, but don't use Cloud Search. So just know that number 2 is correct, because you don't have any operating system components. So we use managed services, like put this in your brain, we use managed services to get away from operating systems. That's why we use Gmail instead of running our own email servers, because I don't want to have to manage that, right? So just take that in. So if someone says, what's an advantage of using a managed service? Getting away from the operating system is 100% an advantage of managed services. Cool. I think that was ranty enough. Make sure I got it in there. Good. By the way, it will go through and show you pictures as to why and all that. Okay. This one, by the way, you just needed to know, because you heard me kind of run through it, and a couple of you guessed. I'm sorry, not guessed. I know it was 100% pure expertise and recall, but you knew that batch and EFS were regional services. You knew that EC2 was a availability zone service. You knew that Route 53 was a global service, and you knew that the security token service was also a global service, right? It has regional endpoints, but it's actually a global service. So the only correct answers were batch and EFS. That's it. All right, we're on our last 3 questions. This is good because we're on our last 3 minutes. We talked about this. Having multiple availability zones, you want to put stuff in multiple availability zones because you are designing for failure. You don't gain any performance gains, so that's not think parallel. You're not making things elastic because you're not adding auto scaling or some other kind of elasticity, and you're certainly not decoupling your components. So it's going to be designed for failure, right? By the way, I love this. Design for failure encourages you to be a pessimist when designing architectures in the cloud. Yeah, that's true for any infrastructure. It's not just cloud. All right, number 12. I said there were 4 reasons to choose a region: service availability, cost per region, not volume discounts, but cost, legal, and what was it? Legal compliances, legal and something else compliances, and then latency to your users. And so these are the 2 options that are there, right? And it will go through and tell you why these are wrong. These are best practices, by the way, for picking a data center. All right, last one. So this one was almost a gimme, actually. Which of the following provides you the most granular data about your AWS costs and usage? I don't know, maybe the cost and usage report. That makes total sense, doesn't it? But you got to remember that you do need to know what the other things do. Like Cost Explorer is a great visual aid for visualizing costs. It's not good for digging in. Consolidated billing is for consolidating your billing so you can get multiple accounts under the same account. And then budgets is for budgeting, like so you can throw budgets on there and get notified when things go wrong, right? By the way, here's the spreadsheet of the buckets of the cost differentiation, right? So you want to make sure you know like why these are wrong, and that's it. The rest of these, by the way, you could easily go through and figure out like what all the rest of this is. But I hope that's been helpful, because I want you to really look at the question, identify the service involved, figure out what the question is asking you, right? And then just analyze it. And the steps, by the way, are listed in the document that I'm going to share with you tomorrow. So I know it's 8:29, so you guys have been troopers, and right up until the last 5 minutes, you were totally interactive. I think I lost a bunch of you. You kind of fell asleep there for a second, but you guys have been great. So just know that before 10 a.m. tomorrow, I'm going to send you an email. The email is going to have this video, and it's going to have the PDF copy of everything that you need here, plus a Google Drive link if you want to go dig around in the Google Drive. I have the videos in both places, and I'll have it up on YouTube as well. So, you know, yeah. So what we're going to do next time is we're going to go through a different aspect of the questions. But here's my ask, is by the time we meet next time, I would like for everybody to have one test done. Have one test done. Because I'm going to pick on a couple people and I want you to volunteer some questions, right? And then, you know, we're just going to like go through some questions that you've been stuck on. So I don't care which test you get done. I just want you to pick a test, get it done, and I want you to have it ready to review when we meet next. So, all right. Does anyone have any questions for me? Any concerns? Anything we should talk about? All right. I will end on this note. All right, don't forget, don't be a unicorn, okay? So we're gonna catch up next time, and we were gonna go through the test. We're gonna do all the stuff I talked about. I'll send you an email, and everything's gonna be good. So you guys have been awesome. So we will talk in exactly a week at 7:30, same time, same place. But you'll see some emails from me. All right, everyone. You guys have an awesome night. You've been great. I'm gonna hang up for a second to answer some few questions just in case. Let's see. Have you done the AWS Practice Exam app on the App Store? Yes. Don't do it. Don't take the AWS Cloud Practice Exam. It's not worth it. It's not worth paying for it. I think the app pays for it. I think so. Anyway, don't pay for it. It's horrific. I've already had a talk with them about it. It just continues. They just need to work on it. Yeah. If there's a free version, I say go for it. But I think honestly, I feel like you'll be wasting your time. 100% of the people who have taken these practice exams and have gotten 95% on it, they've all passed. 100% of the people, I had somebody, I think I told you guys this last week, 100% of the people who have jumped the gun, not passed 95% on these practice exams and jumped to the exam have failed. I actually had a guy last week who called me right before I taught the class, no, 2 weeks ago, and he just took the test. I was like, what'd you get on, Bobby? I was like, what'd you get on the exam? He goes, I got 80%. And then he got nervous. He lost 10 points, a little bit more. He got like a 680 and he failed. So you just got to do this initial work. But I mean, if you feel like you get value out of it, great, but only if it has explanations on it. If it doesn't have explanations about what's right and wrong, I probably wouldn't do it. So yeah, good question though. I didn't know there was a free one. Cool. All right, y'all. Thanks again. We'll catch you in a week, and then I'll email you tomorrow. So please get in touch with me if you need anything. Gave you my contact information. You know how to find me, so please do so. We'll catch you next time.